Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a totally fascinating slice of nature to look at a literal masterclass in biodiversity. We're going to check out this highly detailed primate family tree and explore the stunning wild variety that exists in just one single group of animals. Seriously, by the end of this, you are never going to look at a forest canopy the same way again.
So picture this, a dense, ancient, emerald rainforest. Just imagine the noise, the deep shadows, and that sunlight filtering through a massive canopy way up high. Now looking up into that tangled web of green, ask yourself, how much sheer physical variety is actually possible among closely related species hanging from the exact same branch? We kind of tend to think of animal families as looking basically the same, right? Like a tiger is a tiger, a bear is a bear. But nature? Nature has a way of endlessly remixing the details, crafting these incredible variations out of just one single template.
And when you actually line these species up side by side, it's pretty obvious they all share that effortless one-armed swinging posture. That iconic stance is called brachiation. It's that beautiful pendulum-like movement that lets them basically fly through the treetops. But as your eyes scan across this group, it becomes super clear that no two specimens look exactly alike. They're these distinct, vibrant variations on one really elegant evolutionary theme.
Section 1. Meet the primate family. Let's dive in and see just how many variations exist within this one specific, absolutely fascinating group.
12. Yeah, 12. We aren't just looking at 2 or 3 distant cousins here. We are looking at a full dozen unique iterations of the gibbon form. That's 12 separate species or subspecies, and each one offers a totally unique combo of colors, facial features, and physical markers. To think that a dozen distinct versions of essentially the same animal can share the same broad geographic region, it's just wild.
Moving on to Section 2, a spectrum of fur. And what's truly captivating here is the dramatic range of coats across these 12 primates.
Let your eyes wander across the group for a second. Look at that immediate stark contrast between the different gibbons. On one end, we've got coats that are as dark as midnight, basically absorbing all the light of the rainforest. On the other end, we've got these incredibly light, almost luminous coats that stand out vividly against the green backdrop of the jungle. It is a massive shift in coloration for animals that are so closely related. So if we break these down, we can actually organize them into distinct visual buckets based entirely on their fur. You have the solid, uninterrupted ink black of Klaas's gibbon. It's striking in its absolute uniformity. But contrast that with the brilliant, almost glowing blonde and tan of the Laar gibbon and the generically named gibbon. Then we get into this beautiful, almost ghostly silver and gray category, represented flawlessly by the silver gibbon and Mueller's Bornean gibbon. The Hulak gibbon brings this rich, deep, earthy brown into the mix. And then there's the multicolored showstopper, the pileated gibbon, fearlessly mixing completely distinct shades together in a single coat. This actually brings up a really fascinating phenomenon in natural variation. Take a look at the white-handed gibbon and the Laar gibbon. The white-handed gibbon has a jet black body that contrasts intensely with bright white hands and a vivid white face ring. Very striking, right? Now look at the Laar gibbon right next to it. It has a completely opposite bright blonde body, yet it shares the exact same distinct white hands and white face ring. Two entirely different looking animals sharing highly specific localized traits while having completely opposite base colors. It really shows how evolutionary traits can basically be mixed and matched. All right, Section 3, distinctive faces and crests. Because if we look past the dominant body fur, the faces themselves tell an even more detailed, granular story. Zoom in and focus closely on the faces for a second. You'll notice how the white patterns aren't just random patches. They form very deliberate, distinct shapes, like masks, circles, and tufts, and they even dictate the physical shape of the fur on the tops of their heads. Let's really break down these incredible facial markers. Some of them wear what looks like a full-on superhero mask, a complete white face ring, which you can see super clearly on the agile gibbon and the white-handed gibbon. It surrounds their dark faces completely. But then, check out the northern white-cheeked gibbon. It doesn't have a full ring at all. Instead, it has these incredibly sharp, distinct white tufts standing at attention strictly on its cheeks. The Hulak gibbon takes a totally different route, sporting a thick, horizontal white eyebrow band directly above its eyes that gives it the surprisingly expressive look. And then there's my personal favorite, the black-crested gibbon. It features a literal, sharply pointed crown of hair styling the very top of its head. They each have a completely unique visual identity.
Section 4. Standouts and Special Features. Let's take a look at the true outliers here, the ones that completely break the visual mold. Because amidst all these varying shades of fur and delicate face rings, there is one undisputed heavyweight when it comes to unique physical traits, one that literally completely stops you in your tracks when you spot it. Meet the Siamang. Its defining feature is pretty much impossible to miss. This massive, dark, inflated, balloon-like sac resting right on its throat. Sure, it has a completely black coat like some of the others, but that throat sac is a glaringly unique physical anomaly. It uses it to make incredibly loud, booming calls across the jungle. It's a spectacular standout that absolutely none of the other 11 gibbons we're looking at share. We can also spot standouts by looking at the extreme complexity of their coats. Think of it as the intensely multicolored versus the starkly monochromatic. Look at the pileated gibbon. It features a stunning, complex mix of color blocking, a jet black torso, strongly contrasting blonde limbs, and a bright white halo framing the face. It's incredibly busy visually, almost like wearing a patchwork outfit. Now, compare that directly to the silver gibbon. It exhibits a perfectly uniform, smooth, ghostly silver gray coat from the top of its head all the way down to its toes. It is the absolute epitome of monochromatic simplicity, sitting right next to the pileated's high contrast. Which brings us to Section 5, decoding the gibbon names. Let's look at how these incredible animals were observed and recorded by the scientific community. Because you'll notice that their names aren't just a random assortment of words. If you read them carefully, they give us massive clues into what specific physical traits or what geographical origins were deemed the absolute most important defining factors by the scientists who first categorized them. The history of their categorization is basically hidden right there in plain sight. Some are named strictly for their region, anchoring them to a place, like Mueller's Bornean gibbon. Others, like the northern white-cheeked gibbon, combine their geographical region with a highly specific physical trait. Then, many are named purely for the specific visual traits we just spent time marveling at, like the white-handed gibbon, the black-crested gibbon, or the silver gibbon. It's highly descriptive. And finally, some are granted completely unique proper names. These might be named after a discoverer or pulled directly from a local language, like Klaus's gibbon, the Lar gibbon, the Hulak gibbon, and the Siamang. The names themselves literally form a map of their discovery. Conclusion: the beauty of biodiversity. An entire universe of evolutionary variety can exist right next to each other on the exact same branch, if we just slow down to look closely. Take one final sweeping look at all 12 of these gibbons. Just think about how much detail exists here, how much spectacular variety nature has engineered. From massive throat sacs to smooth silver fur, from tufted white cheeks to sharply pointed crests, it is 12 distinct, beautiful variations playing perfectly on a single, remarkable evolutionary theme. Which leaves us with this final thought for today's explainer. If just one family of primates can exhibit this much startling visual variety on a single branch, what other invisible diversities are out there waiting to be noticed in the canopy above, or in the ecosystems right in your own backyard? Keep observing, keep questioning, and never stop looking closely at the wild world around you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today.